Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football presented by Vaughn Lane. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and the shaded Jerry Hamilton.
We're number one.
Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get your questions in. We got a lot to talk about today.
I got a lot to talk about, Blake. Hold on. I got to stop this real quick. The SEC women's basketball tournament began yesterday for those not paying attention until Texas plays Friday. Tennessee beat Texas A&M 77-37. The A&M women, they didn't even bother to show up. Did they think it was November? Or I hadn't watched them this year. Was Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, and Nick Scourton their post players? I don't know. Somebody's going to have to tell me that's watch them play. All right, I had to get it off my chest.
Look, Aggies struggling women's basketball. That's not new. Hey, we also had John Mateer, the new Oklahoma quarterback, came and talked a little bit to the media for the very first time. We're going to have a little bit of that today. We're going to talk some running back action, Jerry. We mentioned this yesterday a little bit. We want to get a little further than that into that. Also, Blake asked the message board yesterday their most difficult loss to stomach or most heartbreaking time as a Longhorn fan. Going to get into that and some other talk. But let's start with freshmen, Jerry, if you don't mind, because we started talking about this yesterday, and we actually went and did a video on some of the freshmen that we're hearing. KJ Lacey is a name that keeps popping up, the quarterback out of Mobile. Now, he joins a star-studded quarterback room led by Arch Manning, obviously, and Uber and Red Bull and whoever else he has.
Yeah.
Right? But it'll be Arch Manning, Trey Owens, and KJ Lacey. We're hearing really good things right now of KJ Lacey, and we wanted to bring that up to start the show this morning.
Yeah, look, I think the thing with KJ is because all the talk, and look, this is before practice, all that, okay? But all the talk around KJ Lacey was always about his height. I mean, that's all it was. And I think people probably glossed over, missed that the guy trained with David Morris since he was in third grade. He played for Jeff Kelly at Saraland, who's a former all-conference quarterback that played in the NFL, CFL. So Jeff Kelly there's a lot of schematically, there were some similarities to Sark in high school. And then you had David Morris, who was really good, who was known, obviously Arch Manning trained with him as well for years and years, and Eli did in the offseason. He was a teammate of Eli at Ole Miss. But familiarity with Milwee and Sark's system. So KJ Lacey left high school with an advanced understanding of AJ Milwee, Sark, the system. And so for him to come in and be very comfortable, even if it's the player-led workouts, that's to me, that's not that surprising because he was set up for this. There's a reason that Texas is where he went. He saw a lot of familiarity with the scheme and the coaching, and he had been prepared to go in and do well early on. And it's before spring practice, but look, he's a very talented kid. And when you are confident in the scheme you're going into and you come in with an advanced understanding and knowledge of a lot of that, man, you're going to come in and play with a little more freedom early on than some people would. I think it's really good for him.
Other guys getting some notice that we talked about a little bit yesterday, the wide receiver room. There's four of them. We started with just three because we didn't know exactly what Michael Terry, the young man out of San Antonio, would do at Alamo Heights, but he's working specifically with the wide receivers. So it's Michael Terry, Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, and Kalik Lockett, Jerry. We're hearing really good things about the entire group at this point, although Jamie French may be a little ahead right now compared to some others, although Michael Terry kind of getting some really strong reviews as well right now.
Yeah, what I was told about Terry, and I think CJ has been told the same thing, is kind of a locked-in guy. Like, he has excelled in weight room. any of the strength and conditioning, any of the on-field work. He's just a guy that he has the ability to lock in. It feels like what we're hearing early. Now, is he going to stay at receiver? What's he going to do? That's all going to have to sort itself out over time. But I can tell you this, that he is getting very positive reviews in the building, and that's going all the way up to the top with Sark. Was told that yesterday, and the day prior I was told that he's just a little wired a little different. And that doesn't mean other kids aren't. I mean, you can go down the list. I think this freshman class, what's impressive to me is, we heard that about Justice Terry and heard it again. Heard that about Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon. Elijah Bo Barnes is locked in. I mean, that he has been for a while. But this group of freshmen has a lot of guys that I think are showing early on some of that young professionalism, ability to really lock in. And if that all translates to the field, then you end up with a hell of a recruiting class is what's going to happen.
The other guy's locked in.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to put it because, look, Kelvin Banks was locked in the moment he showed up. Colin Simmons was locked in the minute he showed up. Other guys that we're hearing, Justice Terry is in that category, right, Jerry? Everything we hear about him has been, I guess, professional mindset.
Yeah,
it has been the category, yes. And that's very interesting. I don't know, by the way, I don't know if folks saw this or not, but on social media, the defensive lineman had a night out at the Lobster Roll place last night, and
don't go today. They're out of don't go there today. They're out of lobster.
They're out of lobster. There's no telling how many lobsters were lost at that event yesterday, but the entire defensive line was out. Justice Terry, Myron Charles, those guys, along with Cole Brevard, Travis Shaw, Hero Canoe, along with Alex January and Melvin Hills. They were all out with Kenny Baker and his group of coaches last night. So that was good to see as well. But other freshmen, Jerry, outside of Justice Terry that you are hearing, I'm hearing Grayson Littleton.
Oh, yeah.
A young man out of Tampa is in that category as well. Any others that you're hearing really positive early signs on right now?
Yeah, so there's a few guys, but Lance Jackson, look, physically he's going to be a monster. I mean, that's his before and after picture is going to be awesome. Hey, Blake, do you have that tweet from Kenny Baker? Can we bring up the photo of the guys while we talk a little bit?
I got it.
Nick Brooks, I again mentioned a lot. I mean, he's getting some, it's the player-led workout, right? But he's getting some second-team reps at left tackle early on, guys. That's a pretty good sign for a young kid. So the first thing I wanted to say about this is there was a question, Heartbeat 10. I noticed Justice Terry still practicing edge. This kind of goes what we were saying. We've said all along, Justice Terry is going to be in the D-line meeting room. He's going to work out at both, but he's also going to get some time at edge while he builds out his frame, or that was the plan for him a few weeks ago. But we said he was going to be in the D-line meeting room with Kenny Baker because that's where he's eventually going to be. So he's just going to cross-train a little bit as he builds out his frame. Somebody said Sharma's built like a tank. I look at Sharma and I say, if you're 330 pounds with skinny ankles, you're a genetic lottery winner. So he should buy lobster for everybody else because he won the genetic lottery. Look at those ankles on that frame. That's pretty impressive stuff right there.
Hey, look at all those to-go bags. They got all the to-go bags in their hands. They're taking some of that lobster home now.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, it's Jamie French, for the people that have been with us here at On Texas Football, James, he asked how the kickers look. I don't know that one. Good question. I hear the punter can boom it. But Jamie French, for those that have been with us, have heard this 3-4 interviews, maybe 5 he did with us here. He is a guy that has a real intelligence, a great personality, but he's really a forward-thinking kid to me. He's a kid that I think he's got a really high football IQ, talking with his high school head coach and being through there about 3 or 4 times during his recruitment. I think there's a lot of things that leads me to down the path of the guy is going to pick up the scheme pretty quickly, which is a difficult scheme to pick up. Now, how that's going to translate to the field when, we don't know that yet. That's got to be proven out, but it doesn't surprise me that we're hearing some really good things about Grayson Littleton. As CJ mentioned, he's a corner that Mark Orfe had recruited at Rutgers before he blew up. When Orfe, and that was the area that Orfe recruited in Florida. And boy, does he fit the profile of some of the guys that have been drafted out of Rutgers lately by Mark Orfe. We'll see if he ends up playing corner or nickel. I think when he was originally signed with Texas, it was nickel first, corner second. But let's see what happens this spring. But yeah, Grayson Littleton. Obviously, Cade Phillips is a guy that is physically just so gifted. Elijah Barnes is carrying 240 pounds really well, from what we hear. Also,
I felt like it was good to go over those guys a little bit, Jerry. I'm anxious to see what we can do as it relates to the freshmen and how much of an impact they will have. Spring practice begins again on March 25th. So that's just about a little bit more than 2 weeks away. 2.5 weeks, really. Next, 2 weeks from Tuesday, I guess, is the idea here. All right. Before we go forward into our next topic, I want to tell folks about our newest sponsor. It is Von Lane. You've tried flying, you've tried driving. Now it's time to upgrade to Von Lane, the smarter way to travel between major Texas cities. Let's face it, flying can be a hassle. Security lines, packed gates, delayed flights, all for a 50-minute trip. Not worth it. Driving isn't much better. Ever tried a same-day round trip between Dallas and Austin? That's hours of lost productivity, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, and work left undone while you focus on the road. Why waste the day when you can stay connected and productive with Von Lane? Von Lane is a premium motor coach. It changes everything. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some call a private jet on wheels. Sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest. Stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi. Enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. Need to freshen up? Indulge in hot towel service. Want to relax? We've got eye mask, pillows, and blankets to keep you cozy. The Von Lane team takes care of every detail so you can sit back, unwind, and enjoy the most comfortable travel experience on the road. Business travelers, recapture your productivity. Leisure travels, sit back, relax, and get pampered. And if you're planning a football game, concert, or special event, you can charter your own Von Lane coach for the ultimate group experience. Von Lane is first-class travel without the hassle. See for yourself. Visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com, and use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. That's OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. This is a great service, easy access to and from Houston, Dallas, and Austin.
All right. Thank you for that, Bobby.
I got to say this. The CEO is also a Texas grad. I gotta say this, creator of it. Good guy.
That's one that looked very comfortable.
It is.
Von Lane should send us a chair to do the show in. Just one of those seats.
Rod B takes them all the time, he says.
Really?
Rod B takes him to and from Houston to Austin. Yep. Loves
really?
them. Yes, he says he loves them because he gets to sit back and relax, doesn't have to worry about Houston traffic. Once you get out of Austin, the traffic's okay, but going into Houston on 71 right now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, yesterday over on ontexasfootball.com, guys, I put out the question. I said, we always talk about the good times on here, but let's go the opposite direction. I had to twist that knife a little bit. When it comes to the Longhorns, what is your most heartbreaking play or game, whatever it may be, that you can remember? We had some really interesting answers. I want to get y'all's take on it. I want to get the chat's take on it as well. I've already had a couple of people answer here. But you see, like Go Horns 1 here said the fumble punt against Georgia in the 81 Cotton Bowl. Tarrant County Horn says 2008 Tech. There was a lot of 2008 Tech, by the way. Seahorns 427, same thing. Tech #1. The scoop and score by Ohio State, not getting into the end zone on the final drive last year versus Washington. And then he even goes on to say losing in the Big 12 championship game to Kyler in 18, not getting it done versus Georgia in the SEC championship game this year. A lot of great answers all over this. But I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts on what is your most heartbreaking moment that you can remember.
Mine's going to be different than everybody else's. I know everybody's thinking football specific. I'm thinking more university athletic specific on this answer. And I tried to say I'm not going to have recency bias on this. So I went back to 05, 06. So Texas has won baseball national titles. They won football. And then basketball was ranked number 1 or 2 off and on throughout the season, top 5 pretty much all season. And they absolutely had a brutal game and lost in the Elite Eight in overtime to John Brady and LSU. And that Texas, that's as close. And I know TJ took Texas to the Final Four, but that team, I really thought would end up playing, when the bracket came out, would end up playing Florida for a national championship. That loss right there, Texas was, that may be as close as they'd ever been to having a shot to win it all in the 3 majors in about a 5-year period. That loss really, because of football, had won, baseball under Garrido. You got a taste of it in the Final Four, TJ, and then you just came across a great individual performance and a great player in Carmelo Anthony. It happens. But that basketball loss to LSU stings to this day, because if you'd played that game 10 times, Texas wins at 9. And they probably get to the national championship and play Florida's Billy Donovan team, and then you let the chips fall. So that one really sucked from a university athletics standpoint, because I feel like that was as close as Texas had been to having a shot to win a national title in basketball or play for it.
I've got different answers for this, because there's different types of heartbreak to me, if that makes sense. In was it the 77 or 78 Cotton Bowl? That was probably my first true heartbreak as a football fan, when Texas lost to Notre Dame in the national championship game. So I was just devastated as a little 8-year-old, 9-year-old Bobby Burton running around the front yard, throwing the football back and forth right on New Year's Day. So that was probably my first heartbreak ever in sports. But I look back on it and I say there's different types. I never felt a pang in the pit of my stomach like I did when Colt went down in the 2009 national championship game. I mean, I just felt literally my stomach went numb, right? I was at the game, and I literally was on about the 20-yard line on that side of the field, and I saw the play, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought Texas was getting ready to score, go up by 2 scores. And look, of all the ones, that's the one that made my stomach numb. 91 Cotton Bowl, I was on the sidelines for that, and I can tell you that was demoralizing. That wasn't necessarily heartbreaking. It was demoralizing, because they had backups that would go on to be in the Pro Bowl. I mean, that Miami team was so talented, it was demoralizing to see another team have that much. Somebody mentioned in the chat, and this was another one, the Cal game. And I say in the chat, they mentioned actually on on Texas football message board, the Cal game where Gerard Hurd goes nuts, has an all-time great game, scores, and then Texas misses the extra point. And that reminded me of the game that reminded me of a movie and book, North Dallas 40, where they score the touchdown, and then their kicker goes out and misses the extra point, and the season's over. It wasn't necessarily that way for Texas that year, that the rest of the season was over, although it should have been. But there's been so many different ones, like another demoralizing one, John, Route 66 to UCLA at home. Texas, for those unfamiliar, and John Makovic's final year, lost 66-3 to UCLA. And Texas looked utterly helpless. So there's a lot that you can go. Rerunning the pain. We need to remember the great times, Blake. I don't know about you, but
hey, before we hit
on the message board yesterday, that's for sure. It got me thinking about the different types of heartbreak, right? Or the different types of feelings.
Before we hit the good times, Blake, could you imagine? I got a challenge for you. Go to Texags and get an account and ask that same question of A&M fans. And that thread would be unbelievable. It'd be like 78 pages long.
Well, I am not subjecting myself to the pain. I was trying to bring the pain for everybody else by asking the question.
Could you imagine asking A&M fans what their most demoralizing moment's been in sports?
God. Maybe they'll see it on our board and take it to theirs, and I'll scan over there and look and see something.
Somebody, hell no, ask for a joy mode read. We don't have it, but I always have the goods, but not the read this week.
I like how you just carry it with you.
I know. It's like he's stopping him. He's like, it's his new beef jerky, basically.
I am product ready. I am product ready for our sponsors at all times.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, let's move on here. You got your handyman enjoyment. That's your go-to. Some people have a bug out bag. That's yours, Jerry. Oh, man. All right. Well, let's talk about the running backs, guys. We talked about some freshmen. We've looked at some, some past moments that brought a lot of pain or heartbreak. Let's on to some good times and talk running backs here. I'm going to put this graphic up. Of course, this is what Texas has to look forward to next year, or I'm sorry, not next year, this upcoming season. Y'all's thoughts?
The interesting thing is 2 of the 6 won't be available for spring practice. Christian Clark will go through some non-contact, right? But Chad Scott's going to get a real look at 4 of these guys, Bobby. I mean, it's his first set of eyes on these guys in person. So he's going to get a look at 4 of them, not 6. I mean, Christian Clark will be moving around a little bit, but that's much different for him. But he's going to get a look at 4 or 6 of these guys, and everybody has a clean slate going into this spring.
I agree with that. I was looking at it in total, Jerry. This is the running backs in general, and Texas rushed for 2,500 yards this season, roughly. Okay. 1,000 of that comes back with Trey Weiser. He rushed for 1,064 yards, averaged 4.7 yards per carry, kind of slowed down the last 2 games of the year against Arizona State and Ohio State, right? Did not have great games in that regard. But Jarrett Gibson and what Texas has there is interesting. He rushed for 377 yards. So he's the second leading rusher returning. Texas needs to come with they need more out of their running back game this year, in my opinion. Between Blue and Wisner, they got about 1,750 last year. Add in Gibson, they got about 2,000. I just feel like this team's going to have to do more than that to be successful. I don't know what that means, and I don't know who it is. I'm hopeful now that Christian Clark is mending or on the mend. He might get in the mix. James Simon, Ricky Stewart, those guys coming. Phil McIntosh says second highest rusher is going to be Arch. This is crazy now. Arch was the 4th leading rusher this year. Y'all realize that? Arch was the team's 4th leading rusher this year. It only had like 107 yards, but still, that's how few people got the ball in their hands. Ryan Winker had like 5 for 100. So
yeah, if Arch is the second leading rusher, Texas season hasn't gone well.
I agree.
Christian Weatherford, Niblett is now at safety or / defensive back heading into the spring.
Yes, that's true. But my point on this is Texas needs somebody to step up in the running back room, whether that's Cedric Baxter healing, Christian Clark healing, Jarrett Gibson evolving and becoming better to where he doesn't put his head down the minute he gets contact or fumble like he did too frequently on big impact plays. There are a lot of pieces to that has to happen. And we'll see which way it goes. But I do believe this, and one of the reasons we want to bring this up, Jerry, overall, is that the running game gets when you have Arch Manning at quarterback, the running game isn't going to be the focal point by fans. That's just natural, because you have this big name quarterback. I think that the running game and the success of it will be a large predictor of how this season goes for Texas, to your overall point. I think that I don't want we look up in December and this team's only run for 2,500 yards. I don't think that's going to be enough to get them in the college football playoffs. I'll put it that way. They're going to have to be a more effective running team this season, more consistent running team. Coach Brian Irwin always talks about run game consistency. It's not about popping off big plays in the run game necessarily, as it is getting ahead of the chains with the run, so that you end up in 3rd and 2 or 2nd and 5, as opposed to 2nd and 12 or 3rd and 10. Run game efficiency has to be better this year, in my opinion.
I want to get to some of these running back questions that this conversation has spawned. And let's start here with this one from John. He says, what kept Gibson off the field last year? Was it pass protection, fumbles, playbook? Jerry?
It was ball protection more than anything. I mean, Tashard Choice actually commented at one point in time that he was pretty good in pass protection for a young back. So it was the ball security. And one of the things Bobby alluded to, a lot of young running backs, it's never talked about with recruiting rankings coming out or whatnot. But in high school, you can get away with dropping your head and eyes on contact because you're so good. Then you have that extra split second to pick up your eyes and react to what you see in your peripheral. At the college level, and it's one of the reasons C.J. Baxter was so good out of the gate. It was a natural thing for him. And Tashard Choice mentioned this way back on Baxter's. His eyes didn't stay down after first contact for that extra split second. He took the contact. Your eyes naturally go down on the contact a lot of times, but his eyes popped right back up, so he had the immediate vision after the contact. I think Jarrett Gibson's got to get to that point, and that can cause some of your ball security issues as well. You don't see where the second defender is coming from. So I think that's the big thing for Gibson. If ball security and eyes up get a little quicker, his eyes get up a little quicker after first contact, I think he can take a big step as a back. He's very talented, but the key is going to be those two things happening, in my opinion, Bobby.
I agree with you, and that's exactly what I was trying to describe with Jarrett Gibson. He would get popped and immediately bow his head, and he couldn't react to the second. Now he had a good run against Clemson late, by the way, which was somewhat promising. Where that happened, he kept his eyes up and kept going. But my point, larger point, whether it's Gibson or whoever, is somebody's got to step up next to Trey Wisner. And it likely is not going to be Cedric Baxter out of the gate. So who the heck is it going to be?
I like Simon.
Okay, fair. I think Christian Clark, if he's healthy, has that chance. So my point, and I'm not saying that Simon also doesn't, or Stewart or whoever, somebody other than just Trey Wisner has to stand up, or else this Texas team is going to be handicapped, not unlike they were a year ago with the run game at times, right? And Texas doesn't need a hand behind its back going into SEC play for the second year in a row in the run game. That's my opinion, and that's why I think it's so important.
I've said a few times before, but I'm pretty high on James Simon being a good player early on because of his preparation headed into college. I mean, obviously we've had his father, John Simon, on here a couple of times, longtime college coach, as a running back coach, receiver coach, offensive coordinator, I think for a couple of years, played the running back / slot position at a high level at La Tech and briefly professionally before he got into coaching. I think he's coming in with an advanced mentally at the position. And then you see the talent he's got to go with it. I think James Simon is set up, especially how many reps he's going to get this spring with Baxter being out and Clark being limited, right? I think James Simon, because Ricky Stewart to me is more on that Trey Wisner track, that wiry, strong frame that needs time to fill out. James Simon's 202, 203 pounds right now, 205 right in there. Somebody asked the question the other day, is he 215, 220? I think I was being reported no. I actually asked his dad that, and he said no, he's around 205. We'll probably play this season at 208, 209. But I think he is going to be advanced in the scheme, in the understanding, in pass pro, understanding the route tree at running back in this scheme. I think James Simon, he's going to get a lot of reps this spring. I think he's set up to be a impact guy, and I think he's an inside zone runner, Bobby, that can bounce it too.
I'm good with that. They just need somebody.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say, Jerry. It
Yeah.
can't be even though Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue are distinctly different backs, they're very different. I don't want to put them both in the same, pigeonhole both of them into a similar style. They are somewhat similar, right? You didn't have the big back that could go inside. Texas needs somebody that can run inside zone with authority.
Yeah.
They have to have that. And somebody that can break tackles and run through and get hard yardage. So that's my thought process on it. And we'll see what happens there. But if they can develop that person, if he's already on campus, I think Texas will have a better shot at the SEC this year.
I think there's one more piece before we move on. I know we're going to update our recruiting map. Looks awesome. Will that also be helped if your guard center guard's a little more effective in moving people in the run game? I think that's the other piece to that, which will be interesting to kind of follow. Because if y'all didn't see it, we did an offensive line update on Texas Football. That video's been published, so something worth watching there where we get into that a little bit. And that'll be interesting to kind of follow where that goes this spring headed into fall camp.
Okay, before we move on and talk about recruiting here, first, Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Gooder.
It's that time already. It's Gooder time. All right, let me get the glasses on. Number 1 ranked women's basketball team, softball. We got a lot of number 1s going on right here. Stylish Sunnies starting only $25 a pair, 1 year free warranty, 30-day free returns, whatever. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce from vibrant color or sleek styles. There's a pair of Gooders for every personality. They're designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and more. You wear them when you're playing pickleball, tennis, hiking, biking, going to the beach, going to watch Texas baseball, softball, whatever, beach volleyball. Beach volleyball players wear the Texas Gooders from time to time because they're so affordable. You don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. They actually look good on a Von Lane bus too, Rod Baber says. If you need a pair of Sunnies, Gooder is giving On Texas Football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/OnTexas and use that code OnTexas, all caps, for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction, which I guarantee. Again, that's gooder.com/OnTexas and use code OnTexas, all caps, for free shipping. Hey, Rodney, Terry, you might want to try these. Maybe they'll help you get into the tournament. These are pretty good.
Thank you,
There
Terry.
you go.
And
Where are these for the OU game on the bench?
Well, once you get you some new sunglasses, you also should get some new clothes because nobody's got time for stiff, uncomfortable clothes anymore. It's just about springtime here in Texas, and you deserve to be comfortable in whatever you're wearing, no matter what you're doing. That's where Public Rec comes in. Their pants are an absolute game changer. They're designed to be as comfy as your favorite sweats, but a lot more stylish. We're talking super soft fabric, no stiff seams, enough stretch to keep up with whatever your day may throw at you. But Public Rec isn't just about pants. They have so many great style options, whether you're working all day in the office, running errands, maybe going out and getting a drink, a bite to eat, whatever it may be, they have you covered. And who doesn't want to look good without sacrificing comfort? They have a huge selection of high quality, everyday premium styles. You can revamp your entire wardrobe with their perfect fitting polos. They feel great. Their shorts, their hoodies, which are my favorite. Go check them out at publicrec.com. Treat yourself right because comfort is always in season. Upgrade to Public Rec and feel the difference. And for a limited amount of time, you can get 20% off at Public Rec by using code ONTexas at checkout. Just head to publicrec.com, use promo code ONTexas. You'll be all set. And when they ask how you found them, be sure to mention our show. It really helps us out. We would appreciate it. Find your perfect fit. Never compromise on comfort again. That's Public Rec, where comfort rules.
And for the A&M fans, they have them in brown for all your November needs.
Khaki, Jerry, khaki.
Khaki, yes.
Khaki.
You got to be khaki to keep that full.
All right, guys, let's jump over to recruiting. And we actually, we got to give a shout out to David Hart. He's an OnTexasFootball.com member. He made this map. It looks way better than the one I made.
This guy's got talent, man.
Man, it looks good. But this
Whoa.
really gives you an idea of the wide net of offers, 2026 offers that Texas has out there.
Yeah,
Look
I mean,
at that.
man,
You basically can take I-10 and I-20 and go east, right? Down into Florida and then up the Atlantic coast, right up 75, 95, or 85. That's basically the recruiting territory. And then fly out to LA. You've got the recruiting map for the University of Texas. There's some spot recruiting in Illinois, one in Ohio, one in Colorado, Arizona. There's one up in Montana. That's the big tight end, right, Jerry? But
apparently,
apparently
people can't see it. Bobby, the map's not showing up.
Yeah, so. I think our host is having some issues. I'm going to try this one more time. They'll have to let us know if they can see it now.
Oh, okay.
This is a first. Blake muted a map.
I haven't muted myself 3 days now.
Can they see it now?
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay.
No, orange screen.
It must be our service provider. Dave Hart did a great job on those maps. We'll come back to that, Blake. They can't see it.
Do you have the official visit map that you made, Blake?
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot. Well, but they're not able to see anything.
Okay.
So that's the issue. It won't matter if I put it up or not. But we'll circle back to that one.
Trust us, guys. It was a hell of a map.
So I noticed earlier though, when I put up the picture of the defensive lineman, there were some people saying the same thing, and then it finally came up. So I do think that our provider is having some issues this morning.
Could be a lag.
On recruiting, I'll just mention that Jamion Winfield from Richardson, the D tackle, it could be June 13th. It could be June 20th or 22nd. I think they're deciding on a date right now for him. I think Kendall Gerville, out of D lineman out of Fort Myers, is a really big time talent there. I think Texas is going to get a June visit there, potentially June 6th or the 20th. We'll see. Some of these kids are working out official visit dates right now. Luke Waffle, the edge we showed yesterday out of the Hun School. See if this shows up right out of the Hun School. It looks like June 20th for him. Ohio State is your main comp there for Luke Waffle, as well as obviously Tennessee, Penn State, Notre Dame are in it as well. But more recruiting news. I think a number of those recent corner offers are going to be visiting in March, April before June official visits. We have more on that on Texas Football.
It's working.
Oh, there it is. The map's up.
It may just be taking time to resolve or something. But what I was trying to say earlier, Jerry, is you literally could take I-10 and I-20 and go east from Dallas and Houston, or even from San Antonio over, and you basically get 75% of the offers that Texas has made, right? Then you go up the Atlantic seaboard where they're clearly doing more. Look at North Carolina right now. Never seen that before. And then LA. Add all that together, that's 90% of your offers, 95% of the offers that Texas has made. That gives people a sense of how Sark is kind of treating the map, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. Is somebody said they had to check Montana? Yeah, that was that's Billings, Montana, the tight end there, Ludwig, that was offered recently. But it's also telling Dallas, DFW, tons of talent, DFW, Atlanta, tons of talent, and then your SoCal areas. Florida is always going to be more spread out on a map like this unless Texas really goes in on Dade, Broward. And I don't know if I would really go in on Dade County. Broward, I think Texas can do some more things there. I don't know if I'd really put a lot of resources, meaning foot on the ground traffic, in Dade right now. But the state of Florida is always going to be a little more spread out. You have Tampa, you have Orlando, and those areas in the Southwest corridor. But the only time that Atlanta area and that Dallas area would look like that on a Florida map is if Texas really starts recruiting Dade, Broward down southeast corner of Florida heavily.
The three in Illinois, two of them are tight ends, Cisco. Just so you know. This
map's up on TexasFootball.com, by the way.
Yep. Thank you to Dave Hart for doing that. Barry Sorrell checking in, says good morning. 88 is great. Congrats to your son, Barry, on his performance this weekend. I know that was a big one for you and your family. Congrats to Barron, and best of luck to him over the next month as he prepares for the NFL draft. Good stuff. Thanks, Dave Hart, for the map. Really appreciate it, buddy.
That is good stuff. All right, Bobby, I know you got a video that you wanted me to bring up. So
I hope this plays, man. Look,
I tell you what, I'm going to unshare my screen and then reshare it because that's what made it work last time. So hopefully this works.
I think after your comments yesterday, your wife set you up for failure.
I did not sleep on the couch, by the way.
There is sport, and then there is real. This is Brian Robeson, who former Longhorn, NFL player. Look at that sucker.
Wow.
That's a smallmouth bass. Small. Play the video. Watch him bring it in. Now, I know this isn't football, guys, but if you like, my dad right now, when he watches this, is going to go nuts. Look. That's as big as his torso, dude. That's an NFL player. Dude, holy cow. Brian, I had to play that. Brian was pretty proud. He put it up on TikTok today.
I read one of our fishers say buffalo carp.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
I'm not.
I said smallmouth. I'm sorry. I am not the fisherman my dad is. My dad go fish for all day long and then go back and do it the next day 5 times.
Hey,
Brian, congrats, buddy.
The end of that video looked like Rhett Bomar in the Cotton Bowl. Rewind the end of the video, Blake, real quick. Look,
hang on, I will.
No, look, this is Rhett, the Rhett Bomar sack reincarnated. Look.
Here he is. Just there's Rhett. Why don't you just throw him down, throw him
There's
out.
Rhett in the pocket. Bye, Rhett.
If y'all don't remember that play, the young folks out there, go watch Brian Robeson's hit on Rhett Bomar. He was Bomard. That's where that saying comes from, it causing a sack fumble that Rod Wright took back for a touchdown. And yes, Seth, Vic Schaefer would love that. I think Brian Robeson and Vic Schaefer and Jordan Shipley should go do a fishing show together. That's what I think. So anyways, congrats to Brian. Thanks for bringing that up. Hey, one of the things we did want to mention, we do cover, while we're called On Texas Football, obviously we love Texas sports, so we'll mention anything and everything as it relates to that. The Directors Cup, our friend Dr. Brett Wilkinson down in New Orleans does this year in and year out. He's tracking a new thing this year for us, and that is the SEC All Sports Trophy. So who's having the best year, et cetera. It's kind of a miniature Directors Cup. Right now, Texas leading the way pretty handily over Tennessee and South Carolina. That Texas should win this. The one negative right now, as it relates to the Directors Cup, is, first of all, we don't know if the men's basketball team is going to make the NCAA tournament, and that will hurt Directors Cup overall national standings if they don't make it, as well as track and field did not do as well this year as it has in past. So Texas not looking great to win the Directors Cup this year, but they will likely win the SEC All Sports Trophy in their first year. So keep that in mind.
I'm disappointed in the chat. I see no references to A&M being 500 or OU being under 500.
That's not even 500. That's just.
I know. Good. I'm seeing no reference though. I need references.
They're exceedingly average, is what that means.
There you go.
All right. Well, one of the other things we need to talk about before we get to some questions and super chats is yesterday, John Mateer, new OU quarterback, met with the media, and hopefully I have a clip of that here that's going to play. Once again, I'm going to, sorry for these technical difficulties, but make this work by doing it this way. And let's take a listen.
People say I have swag. I mean, you just play football. I know the ball in my hand every play. I mean, I get the opportunity to do something with it, and cameras on me all the time. So I guess I have swag. Some people say I have toughness. I just feel like I have an obligation to give everything I have for my teammates. I guess that's where that comes from.
Next to Barry, George Stoya, Center Scoop. John, being from Texas, what did you know about Oklahoma?
Mhm.
Growing up, going through the recruiting process, and
Yeah.
also just how have you maybe embraced the expectations of being the quarterback at Oklahoma when you see the success that
Yeah.
players have had?
I've had a lot of close friends throughout my whole life. They're huge Oklahoma fans. One of my good buddies goes to school here, and another one. We all hang out, and it's all pretty surreal. I'm quarterback Oklahoma Sooners. It's wild. But I'm here, and I feel blessed to do it, and it's close to home, which is great. My family loves it, obviously, because I'm so close. But I mean, it goes back to like the expectations and the pressure. I think it's just a privilege and an opportunity to be here and work as hard as I can with all the resources I have and the great teammates I have around me to just put my best performance on the field.
Jerry, I watched that. You and I both watched that. That was his first meeting with OU media, and that's why we wanted to bring it up. Mateer, for those who don't know, about 6'1", out of Little Elm, same high school as Ryan Watts and Terrence Brooks, formerly. Last year he played at Washington State. He comes to Oklahoma with Ben Arbuckle as offensive coordinator at Washington State. He was 65% through the air last year, 224 of 347 for 3,000 plus yards, 29 TDs, 7 interceptions. But really, Jerry, when looking at his stats, what really made me kind of drop my jaw a little bit, he rushed 178 times last year for 826 yards. I mean, 800 plus yards, 15 touchdowns on the ground, 29 touchdowns through the air. That's accounting for 44 touchdowns. That's a productive player. Is that something he can duplicate or replicate in the SEC? Because if so, Oklahoma, I don't know, are they ready to jump back up and be a good program again? Or is this false hope for the Sooners?
Well, a few things there. I saw him in high school when I went to see Terrence Brooks, and they had a couple other guys at Little Elm that were really good in the secondary wide receiver too. And there's another part of that interview that he said I had to learn what fun was really in football. But he's a very serious guy. I saw it that day, and I mentioned it on a previous show. Like, that guy was really a serious guy in practice at quarterback. That was a real, like, out there really early, out there late after the practice type of guy. So I'm not surprised he's gone on to become a good player, because he showed some signs of that. I think what will be interesting for him is, look, it's so similar to Diego Pavia in that the OC came, to OU. I think he's a more athletic version of Pavia is what he is. He's a little better passer, but, he's not a big arm guy. They're going to run a ton of RPO with him, a ton of RPO. What I don't think they're going to be able to do as much as QB counter and QB draw. I mean, 178 rushing attempts. That's going to be tough in the SEC. I mean, he's 6'1", 220. He's put together. But I don't. If they have to run him 175 times in the SEC next year, things haven't gone well for them. I'll say that. And he won't survive that. And, look, he made his first big game in college, which caught people's attention, is at Texas Tech. I think he had 197 rushing yards in that game. But to be clear, Cheryl Swoops would have rushed for 100 yards on Tech last year if she'd have put on a helmet. So that's not – but he is a really competitive guy. He is a tough guy. There's a lot of Diego Pavia similarities with him. The question is, I mean, if you look at this, I was looking at this morning, they took 4 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, and 2 OLs in the portal. They're trying to rebuild an offense in short order with a quarterback that's now coming in with all that pressure on him to save the coach's job. So if he does it, hat tip to him, but that's a lot that's being put on his plate.
178 rushes. You might as well. I mean, I think that's as many as Jaden Blue had this year.
Yeah.
Just to give you a sample size, right? And yes, they had some guy, and somebody asked, who's he going to throw it to, Jerry? They had some guys transfer out. Rodney Anderson's brother, Nick Anderson, one of them. But also Deion Burks is expected to come back. That's a young man that came to him last year out of Purdue that was pretty good. They'll be better on offense. You can't help but be better than what they were last year on offense. The question is this guy going to take them from an F, which is what I would have graded them last year, or D-? F would have been – a D- would have been being nice to them. An F up to a C plus or a B. They can get that offense to a B or a B plus somehow with a new offense coordinator. They've got a good defense at Oklahoma. So we'll see if he's enough. I will say from listening to his interview, he's clearly you mentioned Diego Pavia. You mentioned Diego Pavia. He's a guy that's he's not as lighthearted as Diego Pavia, but you can tell that he kind of commands the room a little bit with how he handles himself. I thought it was an impressive interview. Never want to say anything good about the Sooners, but we'll see what John Mateer, the new Oklahoma Sooner quarterback, has to put out on the field this year.
He needs the offensive line to be a lot better, and he needs a little help in the running game. Question: retired working man. It's a good follow-up. How does he measure up to Sam Levitt? I don't think he's that talent level. I think he's he's a really good player. I think he's a really good player. I think Sam Levitt has a chance to be a very high NFL draft pick when all's said and done. I think Levitt is. I think Levitt's going to be too low. And somebody brought up the CBS Sports quarterback rankings where they had Arch 1. I mean, please with your clickbait right now. But people are going to have Levitt too low on all those lists going into next year. Sam Levitt's a hell of a player.
I want to see what Levitt, how well he throws the ball next year. But elusiveness and ability to I mean, he's better than Pavia. He's better than just about anybody. I mean, He was tremendous against Texas in that regard. Texas's pass rush against Arizona State was relentless. And all he did is handle it as well as anybody could for 4 quarters. I mean, he did a really nice job overall. So I hear you. I'm interested in his arm. I didn't see enough of the arm, Jerry, to make me think, oh, man, he's going to be an elite quarterback at the next level.
Yeah.
That was my only thing.
Yeah. I think he'll do it.
All right, guys, let's take some questions here. We got some super chats that we need to get to. And speaking of OU, Jeff Carey, thank you for your super chat, says, oh, my God, we have to beat OU at home this weekend. Talking about basketball, Jerry.
I mean, yeah, it's a must-win game if you want to get in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's for sure. And the interesting thing with this game is Oklahoma, they beat Missouri by 12, right? They lost a tough one at Ole Miss. They beat Mississippi State recently. So did Texas. They lost a heartbreaker to Kentucky. Their last 4 games, Oklahoma's been 4 of their better games for a while in the SEC. So that's going to be, I mean, look, it's a must-win game because Arkansas is 7-10 and Georgia is 7-10 right now in SEC play. Texas is 6-11. Obviously, it's a must-win game to get the 7 wins. Then to give yourself a chance. I've said all year that 7-11 might get you in a playoff game because the SEC was so good this year. But if there's 3 7-11 teams, then you lost twice to Arkansas at the end of the day. I don't care about quad ones. I don't care about your NCAA net. If it comes down to you in Arkansas and you have the same record, you lost twice. You're toast.
Yep, I agree. And it should be that way.
It should be that way. You
got to prove it on the court or on the field or wherever. That's one thing that gets lost with all these, their NCAA net or their Ken Pomeroy ranking is this. I understand the need for all that. But if it comes down to 2 teams that have played on the field, that team gets the benefit of the doubt. That's what pisses me off about 2008, by the way.
Especially when you lose twice in basketball, home and away in conference play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the same record, I mean, I don't care if you're a little higher in NCAA.net or whatever, how it plays out and all the rankings, like you said. If you lost both those games, then it comes down to who gets knocked out in the SEC tournament first. Let's say there's 3 7. Let's say Texas does beat Oklahoma. We're not saying they are because Texas has lost a lot of home games this year. But if they do, then let's say all 3 of those teams are 7-11 going into SEC play. Maybe one of them's 8-10, so there's 2 7-11s. Then It really could come down to, does somebody win a couple of games in the SEC tournament and does somebody else bow out in the first round? We'll see how it plays out. But if Texas and Arkansas if they're duking it out for the last spot, I think we all know which way that's going.
We started this show, Jerry and Blake, talking about something that we posted on the message board yesterday on Texas Football about heartbreaking aspects of football and Texas sports in general over the last, umpteen years. And I just mentioned that 2008 where Texas, even though they beat OU by 10 points on a neutral field, didn't get the nod to go to the Big 12 championship game, and thereby didn't get to play in the NCAA championship game against Florida that year. That was a different kind of demoralizing. That was a loss of faith in the system. I was telling you about different ways to feel bad and crappy, and I was describing the pang that I felt with Colt McCoy's injury, or the loss to Notre Dame in 1978. 2008 was a failure of the system, in my opinion. It was bullcrap. So, anyways, I've said my piece. Sorry.
Our next super chat comes from Sean. Thank you, Sean. He says Kobe Black may have the highest upside at defensive back in 2025. Y'all's thoughts?
Man, well, I mean, he's fighting for a starting spot right now. Is he going to be a guy that is going to wrap that position up opposite Manny Muhammad? It is one of the positions that is not really kind of settled. Whether it's going to be him, Warren Roberson is still there. Don't forget about Warren. You also have Santana Wilson, newcomer like Cade Phillips. Like, my personal opinion, Cade Phillips has as much upside as any DB in the secondary right now at Texas. I think Jonah Williams might be in the similar situation. Derek Williams, if he can get his knee right and comes back strong. Jelani McDonald. Texas has really talented players in the secondary right now. So I don't know if he has the highest upside, because I don't know if Kobe Black is going to go run a 4.38 or a 4.35, right, Jerry? I mean, when you talk upside, you want it all. You want length, you want ability to support the run, and you want speed and know-how. I don't know that Kobe Black's going to have that upper end speed of that group, right?
Yeah. And some people are talking about Gilbo. If he moves to court, the same question is going to have to be answered there, in my opinion.
Speed?
So, we shall see. We shall see if that, because guys are going to move around in the spring. They're going to cross train. It's going to happen. But that's going to be the question there. And I'll say this in the 25 class: don't sleep on Caleb Chester long term.
There you go.
He really good fit with Orfe, I think.
And on a related note, this is a good time to bring this super chat up from Jack. Thank you, Jack. Of all the new guys, who do you think has the best chance of being in the 2-deep rotation?
I think Nick Brooks maybe. Of the freshmen, I think he has a chance. The D linemen are going to play some snaps, but at 2 deep, but there's so much of it. There's more of a 6-7 man rotation there. So that's not. Could Elijah Barnes be the backup to Ant Hill? I think that's highly possible. I think it's possible. Could Nick Townsend? If Nick Townsend was in the spring, I would say yes. But can Nick Townsend, if he's not an early enrollee, really talented, really talented. But we shall see.
I'm going to go with 3 guys on offense.
Jamie French will be, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 3 guys on offense. Jamie French, Michael Terry, and Nick Townsend. And remember, Texas plays 3 tight ends. So even though I think Spencer Shan's going to be inline guy, Jordan Washington be some inline, some flex, they'll use him more like they used Gunnar Helm this year, I think. And I think Nick Townsend's going to get some play. Hey, one guy that we don't talk about nearly enough, because we talk so much about Nick Townsend, is Emory Winston, by the way, Jerry. I'm anxious to see, talk about guys that are kind of forgotten. I'm waiting to see what he does as it relates to this. Where is he really in the pecking order? How good is he? Because Texas took him early and did not back away.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Emory Winston does at tight end for Texas as well.
So as we've had a couple of people ask about Ty Anthony Smith. We were talking about true freshman, but I think Ty Anthony Smith's going to be a tremendous football player at Texas in year 2 and year 3, and that may be it for him. We'll see. I think he's going to be really, really good.
It's
All right.
it's hard to have as much of a nose. Like people want to compare him. Oh, he's going to be similar to Maurice Blackwell. And I like Maurice Blackwell. Great teammate first and foremost, right? Going to have you can just kind of tell he's one of those guys I think is going to be he may end up being a CEO of a company one day. I'll just put it that way, right? Because he's got team first attitude, gives it everything he's got, even though he's probably not an NFL player, yada, yada, yada. Ty Anthony Smith is a little bit different than Maurice Blackwell in that he is more instinctive all around, in my opinion, than Mo Blackwell was as a football player. Like he feels the game. Like I think he feels the game better than Anthony Hill. I think he's more in that Leonga Lafau stage, maybe with a little bit more athleticism than Leonga. Now, Anthony Hill athletically is different in that he's just such a disruptor and a physical presence. But Ty Anthony Smith, to Jerry's point, pound for pound, if you're starting a football team, I mean, guys like him and Trey Wisner, this football player is like tattooed on their forehead.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, before we get to our last supers, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone one last time about our newest sponsor, Von Lane.
Love it, guys. Tired of the hassle of flying or driving in Texas? Driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10 is stressful. God, Columbus is a mess right now if you're driving between Houston and Austin. Airports, long lines, security stress, cramped seats. Just getting to your destination feels exhausting. Next time you need to travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, skip the stress and ride Von Lane. Your private jet on wheels. Arrive just minutes before departure at one of Von Lane's centrally located luxurious hotel partners. Settle into your spacious reclining seat with tons of legroom and personal space. Enjoy complimentary snacks, drinks, Wi-Fi, and even meals on select departures, all while you sit back and relax. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit vonlane.com and use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. Von Lane, first class travel without the hassle. Sit back and enjoy your trip. And I will say this, it is a big, relaxing thing to be able to just drive up, park your car, and get on the bus, as opposed to park your car 30 minutes away or 10 minutes away, take the shuttle all to the airport. Then, I mean, Austin right now and the TSA lines are ridiculous. So making those trips, centrally located trips in and around Texas, Von Lane is the way to go.
All right, let's get to some more super chats here, fellas. It's 420 somewhere. Says, I know the coaches can only have limited communication or time with the players during the offseason, but what interactions are they able to have?
They can have full interaction. Like they can have daily meetings if they want to. It can't be mandatory, but they can come in and have player meetings. You saw what we talked about earlier today with Kenny Baker, the defensive line coach, taking the guys out to dinner. That sort of team bonding activity. They're looking over film right now, talking primarily about just getting ready for spring ball, frankly. That's the big piece that they're working on more now, getting installations done of new things they want to try, particularly on offense, maybe some tweaks on defense with Dwayne Akina coming in. But overall, they can do whatever they want right now.
I agree, Von Lane.
We need to get Jerry at Von Lane out to Florida.
Get like, do they have like the Sprinter van?
No, they do not. But I will say they've started service. Again, this is a Texas-based company, UT grad. They've also started service between Memphis, Nashville, and Atlanta. So they're expanding. It's an interesting company. He's done a great job with it, and it is truly a luxury type situation. But now they do Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta too, Jerry.
Hey, one of the things I failed to mention on Justice Terry, and that question actually brought that up. One of the things I heard on Justice Terry that was really interesting is, and I always want to be cautious of hyping a guy too much, but one of the things I was told he's done, like since he got to Austin, is he's going and asking some of the older offensive linemen question. Hey, like if I do this and this with my hands, how would you react to me? What would you do? Like he is like taking it, like his seriousness to another level for a young guy. He's not just engaging Kenny Baker and defensive lineman, the older guys on the defensive line room. He's literally going to offensive linemen and talking their technique versus him and his technique versus them. That's a guy that's pretty serious about football. About Brennan Bowersock says Rashawn Gary 2-0. That's actually not a bad comparison. I think he may be a 295-pound version of that. Georgia thought he was Devontae Wyatt is who Georgia compared him to when they were recruiting him. So we'll see on that. But he's just one of those guys who's maybe really spongy and very serious about being a college football player 3 years and not 4.
All right, Jackson S. with the super chat here. Going back to heartbreaking moments. He's saying baseball, Stanford in 2023. That was a little heartbreaking the way it ended. And then Mississippi State 2021, we would have won the championship. That wasn't definitely a heartbreaker. I was there in person for that one. So I'm with you on that, Jackson. Todd Lacey, what is the most surprising news that you've heard about the team so far, if any?
Most surprising news, Jerry.
I don't know if there's anything like jumps out like that to me.
Not major. Like Ryan Nimlett moving to safety. That's big. That's news, but that's not major news.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what it is. It happened this week. But to me, it's not heard, but it was seen. The fact that Christian Clark's already doing deep squats after the Achilles tear. He's a pretty quick healer.
Yeah.
And you never know with that injury. Some guys never come back the same, but that's pretty impressive what he was doing earlier this week.
Yeah. Biggest news. I don't know that there's been surprising news about hey, I tell you what, surprising news. A couple coaching changes. Tashard Choice, we thought he turned down the Cowboys and would stay. Ends up going to the Detroit Lions.
That's a good one.
Bringing Dwayne Akina back was a little bit of a surprise because you thought he might go younger. But what he did is he went younger at cornerbacks coach and at nickels coach, and then went older, more experienced at safeties coach, and then brings somebody that's, a legend on the 40 acres back. Maybe that how Sark handled the loss of Tashard Choice, Blake Gideon, Terry Joseph might be the most surprising to me.
I'll tell you another one, Bobby, is hiring a pure edge coach that takes PK out of coaching a position, period, to where he's just the eyes in the sky, essentially, is what he is. And Alan Clark hiring an edge coach that doesn't just come in and coach pass rush. He is the edge coach, and he took over edge recruiting, period. So we had seen PK not be on the road much in recruiting. More and more in recent years, it keeps trending more so to that pretty much hired, and that's not a cheap paying position, hired an edge coach, and he took over edge recruiting, all of it. Maybe that surprised me a little bit.
All right. Our next super chat comes from Kelvin. Thank you, Kelvin, for the super chat. We appreciate that. He says, good morning, guys. To think that in 2 years, Texas could have the first and second overall picks in the draft is insane to me. And he's talking about Arch Manning.
Wow. Yeah.
You agree with that, Jerry?
I mean, we got to see how it all plays out. But I will say this. We were talking about that yesterday. I I think Blake's wife, she's really getting back at him today for all those comments yesterday. You can see it. But she's cutting the internet on him. But we were talking about this yesterday with Colin Simmons on State of the Program. If you're Colin Simmons, you're sitting there and you were a freshman, you were national freshman of the year. And then you're looking at Abdul Carter potentially being the number 1 or 2 pick. It's probably going to be a quarterback, but I'm just saying 1 or 2 pick of the draft. And you're saying, I can absolutely do that. I mean, what a great time to be. And I know every year there's guys, but him and Abdul Carter are very, very similar from a frame standpoint to a talent standpoint. Colin's probably a little more gifted than Abdul Carter in some ways. His natural BGO is just otherworldly. But it's a great time to sit in there and be Colin Simmons saying, man, I've seen what this guy's about to go probably number 2 in the draft. I can do this. I can absolutely do that. And in your own head, you're thinking, I'm better than that guy. That's the way all these guys think, right? So I will have to see. But it's a lot has to play out with Arch and other quarterbacks in college football, I would say. But I think Colin Simmons he's definitely on that path.
All right, Blake's computer crashed, Jerry. We're going to go up. We'll finish this morning's Coffee and Football together here. Sorry for my ignorance, but when we say a guy had 2 TFLs and 2 sacks, are they a part of the total play count? In other words, is that 12 tackles or 8? So they're separate. You count them separately. Tackles for loss and sacks are 2 different overall pieces. Loaf of bread.
Whoa, Bobby! We can count them together.
They can be sackles. Yes,
sackles.
Loaf of bread has this. Can y'all bring up Jade's post trolling OU? Now that Blake is out of the chat, we cannot. I do not possess that technical expertise. But maybe tomorrow, Loba, we'll do that for you guys and go from there. Jerry, let's finish up this morning, going back to some things that we talked about early on. And that really is the freshman. That was kind of our theme this morning. We talked a lot about Justice Terry, talked about KJ Lacey out of the chute. And we talked about Jamie French, Michael Terry, even mentioned Emery Winston. You mentioned Caleb Chester. Anybody else you want to finish up with before we say goodbye this morning?
I think the biggest thing for me is I heard all of the wide receivers, and we'll leave Terry in that group for now. We don't know where Terry's going to end up. I don't think Sark and those guys really know yet. That's going to come in over time. But all 4 of those guys have been talked about as great culture fits, team fits from the off-season standpoint. So the feeling around the 40 is that all 4 of those guys were culture home runs for Texas. And I think that's really important because the more you win, the more some of those recruiting classes kind of can come in with not the understanding, not the process, but more of the, it's just going to happen, So I think the mindset is really big. And I feel like this freshman class, from everything we're hearing, and look, none of them have played yet. I get it. But these kids have come in with the right mindset. So it's one thing to be the number 1 class. It's another thing to come in with the mindset. And I think early on, there's some really positive signs for this group. And a lot of that can be too, in recruiting. The weird thing in recruiting is, Sark, because they've got close, but they haven't got over the hump yet. A lot of these classes, when they come in, if you just look at kind of talk to these kids, the history of recruiting, talking to them through it, is there still is something to prove to help. We can be the class to help get Texas over the mountaintop, right? Then after you get over the mountaintop, the toughest thing, and Kirby Smart, I think, is dealing with that right now at Georgia. And I think that's what made Nick the best. People say, it's talent. But, yeah, there's a lot of people that get talent too. But is for kids to remember process versus the expectations, it's just going to happen. And so I think this 25 class, this number 1 class, they're in a great spot because they're coming into Texas and saying, maybe we're the final piece of the puzzle. If we go be as good as people think we're going to be, maybe we're the class to help Texas get over the top and win that national championship. under Sark. I think it's a really good place for the class and a really good place for the staff to be with these guys.
All right, Jerry, we're leaving some good questions on the sideline today. We'll try to get to them tomorrow. Lowry, Dan, I thought you had a great one. Frank DeCluitt with a good one as well. Well, David Keith Williams, T. Mattia, you guys all had good questions. We got to get going, though. We'll get them. We'll try to get to them tomorrow or later today. Make sure you join us again this afternoon. Rod B., CJ Vogel, and Coach Shipley on with the winning drive on Thursday afternoons from about 3:15 to 4:30 or so. Make sure you guys stop back by. Also, check out our sponsor, Von Lane, the very newest sponsor for On Texas Football. If you're looking to go between anywhere in the Texas major cities, Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, etc., Fort Worth, check out Von Lane and their services. Public Rec, also a big sponsor, as well as our friends over at Gooder that Jerry tries to wear every time Texas has a #1 ranked team for us. All right, that's going to do it for this morning. You guys check us out also at ontexasfootball.com. We'll be having some more news and notes for you there. Jerry already broke a recruiting little scoop this morning over there on Texas Football. For Blake Monroe, who had some technical issues today, as well as Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. Thank you all for watching. Y'all have a good day. Welcome.